All right. The sweat is rolling down.
Feel it.
The mercury is rising. We're getting closer and closer to that ever so glorious cold plunge.
Yeah, baby.
Harvey, your story is amazing, first off.
Appreciate that.
Everything that you're saying is just right on my level. I feel bad that we're only having this conversation in the sauna for the first time. I can't wait to pick your brain,
No doubt.
Down the road. One, at sauna days, which we're about to be at.
That's right.
For us, it's next week, but by the time this is released, we'll have already enjoyed
Experienced
ourselves.
it.
Tell us what you're doing with athletes now that you have, built this identity around wellness and platform to help people.
Yeah, so kind of what I was saying earlier, I would say it gets categorized. I liked the term. So I came up in baseball. Mental skills coach is like a very well-known position, right? It's been around for a significant amount of time. And as I was saying, when my worldview changed from that like psychology second type deal, physiology first, I think what was interesting is that when I was in school, I went to Minnesota State, and I didn't get a degree in sports psychology, but my master's degree, like partial of it, was sports psychology, and it was enough classes to sort of definitely like reach me, like I was into it, And I'd always kind of, even when I was playing with the Brewers org, like I was close to all the mental skills coaches. I loved the sports psych department. I was always into that as an athlete. And so I'd always known that I wanted to work with the mind, right? I wanted to do something. So mental skills coach is kind of like the route to take if you're not going to be a doctorate in psychology. You can kind of become this mental skills position, and it's relevant in baseball specifically. And then obviously if you play professional baseball, you kind of have a leg up, just like natural cause, right?
Yeah.
So that was what I was titled under for so long, as I was going to be this mental skills guy, right? And I think a lot of my early career 10 years ago was really like tackling that, and I was doing mental skills stuff with a lot of youth. I mean, I primarily started out in youth sports, youth baseball specifically, up to high school. And I was teaching pitching in mental skills, and I was toying with breathing, but like I said earlier, I was like figuring things out for myself first. So it's not like I was exploring. I didn't know I was going to be a breathing coach.
Yeah.
Per se.
Yeah, you're just trial and error. It's just like doing some push-ups, 100%. Right? You're just working on some breaths.
100%. So like when I was teaching pitching, it was just like second nature. That was easy. I was a former pro athlete. I did some scouting with the Milwaukee Brewers, so I was in player development. But where I'm going with all this is that I really liked over the last couple of years, my title formed itself naturally into human performance. And I just take away even the term human and just call it performance coaching. So to answer your question directly, what it's really done for me now, or I've really curated the position, is it's like a hybrid of mental skills and psychological training for sure, but it's hybrided with recovery and physiology. Nice. And that's kind of where I think the pain aspect comes in, right? Yeah. So it's like I try to balance the two. So like if I'm working with somebody, we are clearly the guy I just came with, we didn't do any breath work. We literally just talked for 90 minutes, and we're like beating up concepts, strategy. And especially for pro athletes or pro coaches, that's like so difficult because of how in it you are.
Right.
You're in it so daily. So to have a third party sort of be like a voice of reason or hold up a mirror and kind of let you rationalize your thoughts is, it's been productive for my career, but the more I'm in it, I'm biased, obviously. It looks like a very positive thing for people to do. So that's clearly like one lane that I definitely like working with athletes. But I would say largely depending on the sport, and it can change, the variables change obviously off of what sport you're working with. It would be recovery and physiological like training. So that's sound bathing, working with frequencies and nervous system, trying to mess with the senses a little bit and learn how to shift through vibrancy. And then there's heat and cold, obviously. So we're using some sort of like thermal regulation to tackle the nervous system, whether that's recovery strength or mental resilience too. All those categories I think fit when you're talking thermal regulation. And then there's simple things like natural movements, balance, and then my baby is clearly the breath work. So everything starts from breathing, and I've worked at that last, but it comes into that funnel. It's like I'll bounce off of breathing and integrate it into any of those tools I just talked about.
That's amazing. So do you see success with, obviously there's a breathing, but do you see success with one of the other tools more than another, or is it really just a case-by-case scenario? and then you're just getting your own feedback and then using that as a tool for knowledge down the road.
Yeah, I think when I like anything, when you first start teaching, you're just a little bit more nervous. Like I'm way less nervous now. I'm never right necessarily. I'm just less nervous. I don't feel like certainty when I'm working with somebody, but I feel comfortable in the data I've collected and the experiences I've had to show up to any athlete and figure it out in real time. Yeah. And where I'm going to say with that is that I think that mechanics or protocols and structure is extremely needed. There needs to be like a foundational practice. If anybody I'm working with, we're going to do that with breathing. So it's like just very simple. It's like, let's look at the mechanics of breathing. Obviously, I'm sure most people you've talked to, and the more we look in this world from a holistic view, breathing in and of itself to be mechanically sound is difficult.
Yeah.
Like we don't understand the difficulty of literally just breathing pure and being able to move your ribs and be able to expand your diaphragm, be able to pull up your pelvic floor. Like it sounds, we push through it,
right?
But we don't understand how mechanically unsound we are.
And a perfect example is just how you said you were a mouth breather your whole entire life. You're thinking you're doing it normal.
Correct.
Nobody's telling you otherwise.
Correct.
But you're creating a myriad of issues
Yes.
that are slowly negatively developing,
no doubt,
right? To
no
the point
doubt.
where you can't reverse that in a short period of time. It takes then almost the same amount of work to get you to that negative state
100%.
to get you to a positive state.
Yeah, I think that's what's hard about pro sports is that because of the time constraint, and they're very aware of the window of opportunity that they have, and you know what I'm talking about in this stuff too. So often what I was self-victim, like it was just naiveness, is you only concern yourself with curing symptoms. Right? You don't do what you just talked about. Like there's no interest in understanding the root because, especially in season, because it's like, I need to play now. If I don't play tomorrow, I'm losing money. Like, and so there's so much materialism attached to the philosophy.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to do what you just said. And that's why I would say like at a foundational level, breathing needs to start across the board. Anybody, any sport, any population, whatever you are, male, female, it needs to be mechanical and learning just how to slowly, deeply breathe and be able to feel the difference of breathing through your mouth versus breathing through your nose and how that changes your anatomy. You know, if you breathe through your mouth, you create more of an upper lung, right? An upper respiratory, upper shoulder breath compared to nasal breathing. So it's like, how do you make the diaphragm work mechanically? And it's a muscle. What's interesting about the diaphragm, that it doesn't have the nerve endings on it like a bicep, like we were just talking about in the break. So it's like you don't get feedback like you do in a gym, you know, because the diaphragm can't tire out on you.
Right.
Like you need to use that.
Yeah.
So it does require an extreme dose of awareness and understanding when you are like clearly working on the mechanics of breath. But then I think once that, it's not hard, it's simple, but it's being diligent, it's being obedient to being able to mechanically breathe well. Then what I think is fascinating is once the mechanics are somewhat, we'll say, stable, and you're aware of how to create stability and the breathing soundly, now we can climb up into physiology, which is where the world of breath took off in the last 10 years, right? With things like Wim Hof and breath holds and hypoxia breathing and things like that. That's all physiological.
Yeah.
And we can actually manipulate the nervous system and oxygenate the muscle tissue. And you can do some really cool things, like clearly. But that's like the middle tier. And that changes off of sport for sure. Like a starting pitcher is a different body. You want it to be as aerobic as possible, to be oxygen and long sustainable in comparison to like a ninth inning closer.
Yeah, who's a sprinter.
Yes, like let's be anaerobic, let's crush it, but make sure you live aerobic until your 5-minute performance, and then go anaerobic, be the cheetah, crush, and then come out of that and be anaerobic or aerobic again. It's like hockey, right? When you look in hockey, it's like on ice, you're anaerobic. Like let it rip, dude. Mouth breathe mechanically on sound, play crazy, live in the chaos, do your thing subconsciously. But then in your 3-minute microcosms of shift change, it's like you do have the ability to downregulate your breath and bring your heart rate down and not use fuel. Now you can macro that out to periods or post games. And so the only way to govern state consciously is breathing.
Yeah.
The heart rate, the blood, the organs, all that stuff is happening unconsciously. That's why it's in the autonomic. People understand that part about breathing. Breathing's in the category of autonomic, your NS. It's your automatic functionality of what's happening. But you can make it conscious.
Yeah. Man.
Which is what takes you up to the third tier. which is psychology. So now if I understand that I can consciously maneuver my physiology, my internal functions, well, that gives me access to consciousness, which is that's supposedly the separator of humans to the rest of the animal
all the other
kingdom.
mammals, yep.
Right.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if elementary phy ed taught breathing?
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
It would just be, I can't imagine. I mean, they should do a research project.
For
Take
sure.
2 elementary schools that are close to each other, teach one breath work or just simple breathing, and like 1 through 5, and see the level of athletics or the level of knowledge. Like, are they producing better students? Are they producing better athletes? Are they producing better humans?
Yeah.
Is there a greater connection? There's so many things that you could trial and error with a simple, healthy, non-costly study, in a sense, just about breathing.
Yeah, I mean, you got it's complex, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's, I do poke at this. This is a philosophical thing of coaching. But I can't hear you say that and not say this, because I say this often to people I work with and myself. I recognize this on my own self. It's like the concept of teaching people is to help them become self-reliant, right? Like, I think that's like a generalization.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people would agree with that. I'm coaching you to help you become more you,
Yes.
become more self-reliant. The paradox to coaching, especially as in a career path, is that the second you become self-reliant, why am I needed? And that's where it becomes like you got to deeply think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's almost like we stop ourselves from growing because we want ourselves to be reliant. And we want to just be reliant on certain systems. Like, one of the powers of breathing is the truth that lives within it. So it's like to be self-reliant on your breath, your physiology, your awareness. You step outside of the fabric of society.
Right.
Like, you move into your authentic you.
Yes.
You become you.
Yes.
That's the thing about it. But the
100%.
scary part about it is when you go over there, it's just you. So you have to learn how to balance both. How do I be me authentically and just not have to be reliant on the world to be my healer? I can be self-reliant. But then knowing and appreciating the reality and the justification that happens in the real world. Like, now we're definitely like, you do need to build the business. You need to have a successful outing. You need to have a good game. Like, there's just results that do matter.
Yep.
And I think that breathing, it's hard if you're going to be a breathing coach or into breathing, it's hard for you to not dive into philosophy.
I
Once
totally
you
agree.
start getting into that stuff, you're going to start seeing things differently.
Totally. I studied sport management at college, and I had a number of sports psychology classes that I loved.
Oh, yeah.
And it was my philosophy of sport class that took me onto a whole nother level.
Nice.
And I think that we're speaking the same wavelengths a little bit on the philosophy side as well as the psychology side, but more importantly, the physiological side.
Yeah.
We can't ignore that. The physiological side must be functioning in order for the rest to perform optimally.
100%. I think we miss that. I think we silo everything.
We're too reactive.
Yes, we're too reactive and we silo everything. We want things to be the thing.
Yeah.
I want my mind to be the mind. That's not how it works. Your body, the anatomy of my jaw is going to change the way in which I think because of the narrow airway that I experienced adolescence and young adulthood with. So now all of a sudden, if I have less oxygen in my brain, you already alluded towards it. Imagine if the children are oxygenated, what the brain's doing.
Yeah.
Right?
How much disease we're eliminating
Correct.
by getting way out in front of it.
Yeah, do you think ADHD exists as often if we have oxygen in the brain?
Hell no.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys start thinking about stuff like that.
You know what else I'm thinking about right now?
Yeah, I know what you're
Thinking about that cold plunge.
I've been thinking about it too.
Piping.
Because round 2 is a little bit different.
A little bit different for sure. Well, let's go. Let's get
Let's
some
do it.
breathing exercise
No
in that
doubt.
cold plunge
Good
and then
round.
come back here
Good
for a little
sesh.
wrap up.
Yeah.